It's a typical day at the Furlong household. Suddenly, Kathy goes into labor. She calls for her husband Philip, who works in a field near the house, and he rushes to help. She falls on the grass, and the flowers begin to wilt. Philip takes his wife to the hospital. The Furlong family has always been highly unusual. As a child, Philip's father, Charles Furlong, saw his parents having sex. Since then, every time he thought about having sex, he was blind for 37 minutes. This made his first wedding night very difficult. Philip also had the unusual ability that when he was frightened, all the electrical appliances around him would stop working. That's what turned off the electricity in the car that day, which made it impossible for the man to take his wife to the hospital. And Kathy had to give birth right there in the car. She died in childbirth. This is how Joseph Furlong was born. When he was 9, his grandfather died. He was driving past a commercial for bras, went blind, and was in a car accident. After losing her husband and daughter-in-law, Grandma Charlotte begins to treat the gift as a curse. She moves in with her son and keeps a close eye on James to ensure that he never reveals his ability. He, on the contrary, wants him to discover the gift as well, so he tests his abilities in every way possible. While trying to learn how to fly, he rides a bicycle into a field, meeting a herd of cows on the way. After a while, James comes home crying and shows a hoof mark on his stomach. He says something has happened to the cows. A worried Philip goes to the field, where he sees several dead cows lying on a patch of wilted grass. The angry father returns to the house and asks why he killed the cows. Philip punches him in the face, causing him to fall to the grass. James touches the ground, and all the vegetation on it dries out. His father starts coughing up blood and dies. Going home, James sees that his grandmother has also died from his curse and begins to cry. James goes to an orphanage, where he meets a boy named Liam. The older boys hurt the newcomer, but Liam is always kind to him. When he brings James some food from the cafeteria, the older boys throw the roll out the window and make James climb up to get it. Downstairs, he bumps into a guard dog and accidentally kills it. One of the older boys is blamed for the animal's death, and he and his friends decide to beat James for it. In pain, he unleashes his strength and kills everyone in the orphanage. A frightened James runs out of the building and sees Liam, who is hurt but not dead. He calls for his friend, but James runs off into the woods. 10 years pass. A girl named May wakes up after surgery to remove a cancerous tumor from her colon. After overhearing her mother's conversation with the doctor, she discovers that the disease has not been defeated, and she has a couple of months to live. Shattered by this news, May leaves the hospital. At a nearby cemetery, she meets Liam, suffering from lung disease after encountering James' curse. She tells her friend that she is about to die and goes into the woods. All generations of her family have had cancer, so she considers it a family curse. Wandering through the woods, May stumbles upon an area where nothing grows, and animal skeletons lie on the ground. In the middle of the scorched earth stands the forester's house. It begins to rain, and she asks the house's occupant to let her in. There dwells James, who has decided to live as a hermit because of his curse. Because of his loneliness, he has become a bit feral, so he feels embarrassed at the sight of May. Despite this, he allows her to stay the night. In the morning, James feeds her a soup made with forest animals, and she lets him listen to a Walkman. After looking around his place and being surprised that nothing grows here, May goes for a swim in the river. While May swims, he brings her a towel. She tells him about her tumor. James asks if it is terrible, and she replies that it is awful for someone who wants to live. They lie silently, side by side, on the grass for a while. May tells James that she had a good time and leaves. He looks after her for a long time. Meanwhile, Liam and the other patients at the hospital look for her. Still not finding her, Liam arrives at May's weeping mother and the police officers. He says he saw which way she went but didn't tell them immediately because he didn't want to get her in trouble. When James arrives home, he discovers that May has left her Walkman at his place. He wants it back. Hoping she hasn't gone far yet, he runs through the woods shouting her name, and May hears it. James stumbles and falls into a ravine. The pain of the fall causes the curse to take effect, turning the ground around him into a scorched wasteland. May finds him and helps him up. A search expedition goes into the woods. Her mother is going crazy with grief, for she believes her daughter has gone into the woods and killed herself there. May goes along, supporting James. Hearing her mother's screams, the couple hides. He asks May why she didn't go to her mother, but she says she can't leave him alone in that state. James says it would have been better that way. Upon arriving at the house, May washes his head wound. James informs her that she should not stay here and should have left long ago. She replies that he went after her himself. He tells her that the people around him are in danger because of the curse, and he has no power to stop it. According to him, the curse is only passed down through the male line. May brings tears to her eyes. James tells how he got lost in the woods after running away from the orphanage. The starving boy ate poisonous berries, which made him sick, and James fainted. A woodsman found him and brought him to the same house where he now lives. Knowing that he might die, no matter how much he asked the man to leave, the forester stayed anyway. When James wakes up, he finds the dead forester in a pile of leaves outside the house. May says she is not afraid of his curse. She knows she will die because she's sick, so James' powers don't scare her. May embraces him. Night falls. She says she will have to return soon, and James asks her to stay. They spend the night in each other's arms. When he wakes up, he sees that May is gone. But he also notices green plants sprouting, and live birds appear on the scorched ground around the forester's cabin. This sight shocks James, but he sees police officers approaching the house. A chase ensues, but he manages to outrun his pursuers. Back at the house, he realizes he has to be with May, so he goes on a hike. More and more green plants sprout around, and James breaks off a branch from the tree with a bud that is about to blossom. With a heavy heart, May arrives at the hospital. She is completely shattered by the need to come back here again. A policeman tells her that a particular man has been found in the woods and asks her if she has run into him. May says she hasn't seen anyone. Liam also hears about the man hiding in the woods, standing at the ward's door. He walks into the room and sees the jacket May returned to the hospital wearing. It has a tag on it that says James Furlong. He says that she has met the real killer, the reason Liam is now forced to die slowly. He says he wants to protect May and that he loves her, but she chases him away. Liam runs to the cops and tells them that she is lying and she met James in the woods. According to him, he is an actual demon and a brutal killer, so they have to find him. The police officers tell them that she has been found, which means the case is closed, but Liam gets increasingly heated. The doctor gives him a sedative shot. At night, when May is already asleep, the doctor goes to talk to her mother. He is shocked by her latest tests, for her condition has clearly improved over the past 2 days. Her mother is happy to hear the good news. James sneaks into the hospital. He accidentally enters the room where Liam is lying, notices, and tries to follow him. The blind boy, whom James asks for help finding May, tells him that she is lying 2 floors up. Liam arms himself with scissors, but as he tries to get up, he falls and faints. James finds May, and she is delighted to see him. They hug each other happily. She apologizes for leaving without saying goodbye but could not have done otherwise. May didn't want her boyfriend to see her die. James shows her the twig of the tree he broke off near the house. He says it's all thanks to May, but he doesn't know if he wants to go on living in the woods, and she thinks he doesn't belong there. James is sure it's perilous for him to be in the hospital because everyone around him is in danger, but May says he can't hurt anyone as long as he's with her. They have sex. Lying next to each other, May and James feel incredibly happy. A branch lying on the nightstand begins to unravel. The blind boy realizes his sight has returned to him, and the withered vase in the nurse's office blooms. Liam comes to his senses. He sees James asleep in May's arms on the 2nd floor. He hits the panic button with his scissors, and the hospital's fire alarm goes off. The nurses begin to evacuate. One of them approaches his bedside to take him away in a wheelchair but sees him running towards the exit himself. May changes James into his hospital pajamas to get him safely out of the hospital. Liam pulls a tube out of his nose and realizes that for the first time in years, he can breathe with his full chest. James runs into Liam on the stairs, saying that James will pay for what he did. He starts to run away, and May tries to track him down in the crowd. Liam catches up with James at the cemetery. He says he was his friend in the orphanage and will never forgive what he did to May. James says he never meant to hurt anyone, but Liam pulls out a pair of scissors. A fight breaks out between them, and Liam stabs James in the stomach with the scissors. The grass beneath him immediately begins to wilt. Realizing what is about to happen, Liam runs into the woods. The sky gets cloudy. The wind picks up, and leaves begin to fall from the trees. Bleeding, James tries to reach the woods. May catches up with him, but he asks her not to come any closer. Despite this, she runs after him. James reaches the lake and jumps into it to drown himself. May rushes after him. Underwater, she kisses him and confesses her love. James goes to the bottom. The extinct vegetation turns green again. May gives birth to a daughter. When she grows up and hears her father James' story, she asks if the plants will die because of her. May replies that she has inherited only good things, and that is how the curse of the Furlong family ended. May says that even though James thought his ability was a curse, love could bring out the best in him. She believes that James gave her a future.